Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. You know, there's been a lot of unpleasant news coming down the pike when it comes to Magic the Gathering. Standard is a nightmare, and I figured, you know what, it would be nice to take some time and talk about something that we can all appreciate. A brand new spoiled card from Theros Beyond Death. And it's brand new in some ways, but in other ways, it's actually a reprint. And it ties in to a really fun and I suppose unhappy memory as well from way back in the day for me when it comes to Magic the Gathering. So I'll save the personal story for the end. That way anybody who just wants to talk about the card can skip out on that part if they're not interested. So the card in question that we are going to discuss today is Underworld Dreams. Now this card originally showed up back in the days of Legends, 1994. So I'm going to start by putting an image of the originator, the very first Underworld Dreams, up on the screen so we can take a look at this beauty, because this is the version of the card that I had. So 3 black mana for an enchantment. The original wording of it is Underworld Dreams does 1 damage to opponent for each card he or she draws. Now, as you can see, this doesn't have the traditional wording of like a normal Magic card trigger. It will obviously get updated as we talk about future versions of it, but this was the originator, the very, very first Underworld Dreams. And you can see, taking a look at the artwork, that it's like, okay, wait, what's going on here? You just have two guys in robes, or a guy and a lady in a robe. I'm not 100% sure. Can't really tell. Either way, they're just there in what I suppose is supposed to be the underworld. You've got what looks like little gray islands with kind of surrounded by lava. In all honesty, it kind of gives me now the vibes of like the Minecraft Nether, truthfully. That's the first thing that springs to mind. But either way, I always thought the artwork for Underworld Dreams was just kind of weird, where it's like, do they have a checklist, or are they going around like, yep, we got this nightmare, yep, we got this going on, like, what exactly is this supposed to be? Or they're like, yep, you had a dream, we've got to hurt you. Like, what exactly is the flavor connection between this card and what is actually going on here? I mean, this is from the beginning of Magic the Gathering, where artists had a whole lot of freedom and not much in the way of direction. A lot of the time, when it came to the cards, they would just be told the name of the card, and they would just kind of wing it with the artwork. So that's how we end up with crazy artwork like this Underworld Dreams. Now, the flavor text says, in the drowsy dark cave of the mind, dreams build their nest with fragments dropped from day's caravan. And that is written by Rabindranath Tagore. Now, this quote is actually from the way, way old school style of Magic the Gathering, where they used real world quotes. This is actually a quote from an Indian poet. Although admittedly, his name does have a very fantasy style feel to it. I had no idea when I originally saw this card that it was actually straight up a literary quote as opposed to something just made up for the card. So originally Underworld Dreams showed up in 1994, and they did revisit this artwork in 2005 for a DCI promo version of it, but the majority of Underworld Dreams printings actually have a different artwork. Originally, they made the change in 8th edition. That's where we got Underworld Dreams again. So originally we got it in 1994. Then it was about 10 years before we saw Underworld Dreams again in actually like a legal Magic set, not as a promo. So it took about a decade for Underworld Dreams to come back. Now in this case, we have artwork where you can see what kind of looks like a nightmare, really. I mean, you look at it, you see a bunch of spiders with gigantic eyes in their center. There's waves of bats that are coming forth towards you. You can see how this more transmits the concept of some sort of nightmare that's going to injure you overall, right? Like you get the concept behind this. It seems like it makes a little more sense than the original artwork. And they actually went ahead and printed it with this artwork 5 separate times. Now, in terms of it showing up in standard, it was in standard for 8th, 9th, 10th, and M10. Now, that may throw you off as well, those of you who haven't been around forever. Wait, 10th and M10 sound like the same thing, but no, at a certain point they started going Magic 2010, Magic 2011, all that kind of stuff where they started to name them the same way that car manufacturers do, where whatever year it is, they actually give the set like the next year's name. You see it right now with Magic 2020, right? So this is the second iteration of Underworld Dreams, but they kept the flavor text, which I liked because by the point that they had gotten here, they had already ditched real-world literary quotes. They kind of pushed them to the side. And when we move on to look at the Theros Beyond Death, I always just want to say Theros Beyond Death version of Underworld Dreams, we can see that they've actually gone ahead and changed the flavor text, and I don't really feel like it's an improvement. The flavor text just says, dreams are just one more form of torment. And in all honesty, that's not nearly as poetic. It's not nearly as impressive. It feels actually like a really weak sauce bit of flavor text, truthfully. It's just, oh, okay, dreams are just another form of torment. Alrighty then. Now that's the only complaint that I really have about this version of Underworld Dreams. Now bear in mind, the image that we're looking at isn't perfect. It isn't the most high resolution image you can get your hands on. Well, it is now, actually. It won't be when we get an official spoiler for it, but this is one of the cards that showed up in that supposed, like, I bought these cards at Walgreens, but we're still not really all sure where they came from. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I will include a link at the end of this video that, like, kind of takes you into what I think is going on with this, how we got these spoiler cards so much in advance. But either way, when we take a look at the card, you can see in the artwork, you have these individuals. There's a number of different people here trapped in the underworld. You can see what are supposedly the dreams just sort of leaching up out of their head. Now, I like that this woman here in the forefront with the dreams that are leaking out, you can see they're made up of the starry night sky of Nyx, which is pretty dope. And in the background, you can see Erebos just standing triumphantly over them, Lord of the Underworld. So this artwork has a really nice atmosphere to it. I kind of wish they had kept the original flavor text, but I understand as well they don't really use real world quotes, and they wanted to somehow tie it more to Theros, but I don't feel like they put in enough effort with the flavor text to really get there. Again, my minor nitpick. One of the most interesting things about this card is one of the smallest things about the card, and that is over at the expansion symbol. You will notice that all of a sudden, Underworld Dreams is uncommon now. Now, this is a big departure from before because it has been rare in every printing. In the most technical sense, it was considered an uncommon in Legends, but Legends had multi-levels of uncommons. There was this weird way they used to do things back in the day, where they would have uncommon 1, uncommon 2, uncommon 3, and that would determine how many printings of these cards showed up on an uncommon sheet. And Underworld Dreams, even though technically would be called an uncommon back then, it actually is a rare. They went ahead and updated a lot of the older cards in terms of what rarity they're considered, and the original printing of Underworld Dreams is a rare. So this is the first time we're seeing Underworld Dreams as an uncommon, for real, like a legitimate uncommon instead of one of the multi-layered uncommons. So up until this point, as far as I'm concerned, every Underworld Dreams has been a rare card. Now they've decided that you can have this level of power at uncommon. It doesn't feel too strong for an uncommon. And admittedly, when I look at it now, if you were to give it the card a different name and call it like Overworld Happy Meal or something like that, I mean, that's obviously a terrible name. But if you were to call it something else, just like, oh, Erebos' Tickle Fight, I would look at the card and go, okay, you know what, for uncommon, it's like whenever an opponent draws a card, they take 1 damage. It's really not that powerful. I mean, it's still nice. Like, don't get me wrong, Underworld Dreams is a cool card. You're putting a clock on your opponent. Every single time they draw a card, they're taking a damage. But when you're taking a damage for each card, that's really a 20-turn clock. And as we've seen with things like the 2020 Chandra, where you can put an emblem on your opponent and they take a damage every turn and can't do anything about it, just having one of those, if you've played against it, you realize, wait, taking 1 damage a turn isn't really that big a deal. The only point of life that actually really matters is your last point of life. So something that takes you from 20 to 19, then 19 to 18, then 18 to 17, and so on, isn't actually that impactful unless you're playing a long, protracted, drawn-out game. In that case, yes, the Underworld Dreams is going to win you that slow war of attrition, but overall, we've got a scenario where Underworld Dreams doesn't actually feel wrong at uncommon. When I first saw it, I was like, wow, they made it uncommon? That's crazy. But that was really just a gut reaction based on Magic history, as opposed to an honest appraisal of the current state of Magic the Gathering. And power level of a lot of cards has tended to move upwards. I mean, Underworld Dreams was a rare back in the day when we had things like Force of Nature instead of Aggressive Mammoth. So when you look at things from a current world perspective, Underworld Dreams as an uncommon, it does feel like the right spot to have it. This is going to be a really annoying draft card, because if you play drafts, you will realize a lot of those games tend to drag onwards, and you'll have a lot of landlocked battles where you're just trying to fly overhead or find some way to evade with like a little ginger brute or something to get in there and deal some damage. Well, the Underworld Dreams will do that for you. You can just sit back behind your creatures going, come get some, come get some. So overall, I stand behind it being uncommon. I'm cool with that. I don't think that the power level of this card would warrant it being a common. I think uncommon is the sweet spot for this card. Now, I said at the beginning of the video that I do have my own little personal story about Underworld Dreams. So what you need to know, what you need to understand for all of this is that when Legends came out, it was incredibly difficult to acquire. Legends was only available, that I saw in the store for sale, for one day. I was able to get 3 boosters of Legends in my entire life, okay? So those 3 boosters, I got them one day, and that was a lot of people's experience. They had a limit. You're only able to buy 3 boosters because the store owner wanted to make sure the maximum number of people would have the opportunity to get some of these new cards instead of one person just buying it all up and nobody getting it. And I'm really glad he did, because Legends turned out to be so insanely rare that where I was, that me and this other guy had a pact where we agreed to only trade Legends cards between us. But anyways, understand these cards are super, super rare. Now imagine me and my delight when I've just managed to trade for an Underworld Dreams. One of my friends had 1 Underworld Dreams. This was the only Underworld Dreams in our entire playgroup. Just one. Just one Underworld Dreams in the entirety of our whole playgroup, all right? So I managed to trade for this. I'm super excited. I'm going to put it in my black deck with my Royal Assassins and everything like that. So I pop it in my deck, boom, shuffle up. Like I traded for it at school. I waited all day to get home, put it in my deck, shuffle up for the first game. And what happens? Well, we played for ante. And if you don't know what ante is, how it works is at the beginning of the game, everybody flips over the top card of their deck. And whoever wins the game keeps those cards. Like the old school days of marbles where you play for each other's marbles or whatever. The same kind of concept with Magic. We literally played for each other's cards. So my very first game with Underworld Dreams, before I've ever got to play it, it gets flipped up as the ante. Now, I bet you can imagine where the story's going. It doesn't end up all triumphant with me putting my Underworld Dreams back in my deck. No, it ends up with my friend winning the Underworld Dreams. Now, a lot of times when you would lose something in ante, the person would offer to trade it back to you for something they could use for their deck. My problem was I was playing against another dude who plays black decks. So guess what he did? He kept my Underworld Dreams. He put it in his deck. I never got to play with the card. I was so heartbroken. I was devastated. I was so excited about the Underworld Dreams. It was going to be my key card. Like, yeah, I'll hold you back with my Royal Assassins while my Underworld Dreams just ticks you down. Boom. Gone just like that. So frustrating. I mean, now I've let it go mostly. I'm only the tiniest bit bitter. I miss you, Underworld Dreams. Either way, I thought that was a funny little story. So the other thing I want to mention while we're here actually is I just released a brand new video on my second channel. If you didn't know, I have a second channel where I carry on, act ridiculous, and make comedy videos. So if you want to have a laugh, I invite you, come on over. I will put that linked at the end of the video, which should just be in a few seconds, really. So when that pops up, head on over there, subscribe to that channel. Notice how I don't really say that kind of stuff here. Like and comment and subscribe and do the happy like, comment, subscribe dance. Anyways, go check out my other channel and give it some love. Speaking of love, I've got love for my patrons and channel members. Thank you for supporting the work that I do. I appreciate everybody who comes by to watch my videos, so thanks for being here. And remember, my friends, together we are the sixth color of magic.